a conceptual talk about what's the next future of the Fedora. You say that for the last minutes, very discussion about the present of the workstation. What is going to be the Fedora workstation in the future? Because, like I show you, you have new things to manage, like new ways to input for the user something to the system. How you can manage that in one platform and another things. So, who am I? I am the guy of this many of credits. I am from the ambassadors team. I am a Brazilian guy, and I am for the quality. So my primary goal in Fedora is testing things, reporting, tagging, and all that kind of stuff. I've been for Fedora in the last 6 years. So, what will be the today topics? Like I say, we have new ways of recognition of user input. The future of the workstation will be no more by mouse, yet you'll be from touch devices, voice or gesture, but not only one of them or the combination. So it's very a tough decision what you can use. You can use separately, or you can use two or more of them to create a new way of interaction to the system. And so we are prepared to the new generation of that. So what you can stand for the new applications, how you can manage the new ways to input the system, how the platform you can develop to achieve that that goal of a new way to interact with the system. And the quick question is how we can be the visual, how we can manage from smart screen devices to a large or ultra high definition device of the same UI/IO development. Not to build like we have today. You have to build for every device a new IO every time. If it be possible to have a single platform, so you can have one developer, one coder, one build for everything you want, and give you a final product by a directly managed, or you have to, like I say, build individually for everything you want. And what this users expect from us right now and in the future. So I give you some recognition status from yesterday's primary in Linux. Today we have many libraries. The farming together the OpenCV is like the acronyms for Open Computer Vision. That's a library here can permit you recognize the element of a movement of a hand, the movement of a head, everything one to a camera can recognize for you can input your system a gesture. Like you can read that library and you can say, for example, you want to close something, you can close your hand, you can open something, you can open your hand. So the system will recognize by that and do a gesture, you program it to do that. In the touch recognition, we have slice, and today the X11 server is not natively built for input touch. It has an extension, it's doing that job, so it's not developed for that. It's like it's an improvement to do. It's not something very easy to do today because the X11 code is very old. You have many devices and they have no easy way to do for the user. But with the new graphics server, Wayland, is that a clean code is very more fast for touch devices and has the native support for that. So you don't need a separately. You have natively on the server the multi-touch support. for voice recognition, we don't have anything in Linux today for voice recognition. So the many of the libraries don't focus to give the primary job, recognize something you say and convert to the system. They do recognition for accessibility purposes. So what you can do for a library today for voice recognition is like for if a person doesn't have any members, the person doesn't have any other ways to input something to the system, we can do by the voice. But the primary goal is not to recognize the speech, yet do something for the special people. So, are you prepared to hand off the combination of individually the new inputs of that to the system? The trick question is, no one in the market is prepared to hand off the combination of that. We don't have any system we can give you a fully interaction by touch, voice, gesture combination, because the problem is that no one is prepared for the convergence of all devices you can have. So with the Internet of Things, you can have a watch, you can have a refrigerator, you can have anything you want connected to the internet, but the people don't know what the full potential that you can have by interacting. So you can go to your fridge and say to buy something, or you can touch in the screen, so the people don't know. Don't format to the market something because they are already testing something. They don't have a final product. They only have these concepts and another stuff is not finalized. The visual approach is a good thing you can have today. Formerly in the past, you have to do for any device you want, you can reassign everything to the size of that screen. So if you have, I don't know if you have anything when you buy a netbook, remember that? Someone buy a netbook. It's a smaller device, it's dead now because the tablet. The KDE put some very good efforts to do a new IU only exclusive for that, and now it's there. So it's a very tricky question how you can say to adapt by the size of the screen if you don't have a primary, how we define the size. So you can have a smaller device like a cell phone, or you can have ultra large definition television. How it can be the size of pixels, how you can manage the elements of you want in the screen if you don't have the final size of the pixels. So the developers come up something called responsive scale support, wherever they want is something. You have a blocker, you have let me see, you have a square, and in the whole day you have something like that, 20 for 20 pixels. So if you have a screen of 200, 300, the element is every time the same size. Now with this responsive scale support, you don't work anymore with fixed size. You work with dynamic sizes, something like that. So it will be 20% of the size of the screen. So if you have a smaller screen, like you have 200 or 200, you'll be 40 for 40. If you grow the screen, the element will grow themselves. So you don't have to worry more if you have a large screen with a smaller icon, or you have a smaller block, because the element now is dynamic. Like I have an example in the high definition display in KT5, when KT5, when you scale, like it's doing something, like the first is 100 pixels, the second is 180 pixels, then this 30 is 220 pixels. So every time they scroll that, all the elements dynamically go to the new size. So you don't have to create for every size of the screens a new IU, because the elements you responsibly adapts to the size of that screen. So a Piximary, yeah.
I was just to add that this can solve most of the cases, but there's still stuff like the minimal size of a button or something. Because if the minimal size can be like 20% on a small device, but 20% on a big screen is like this big, so that needs to be still solved in another way.
And that scale does not minimum size. You can do everything one size for 1% to 100%, and you have total control of the size of you want. But the reason they use that is something like the primarily everything you want you be, I can say, by 10% of the value you want. So not 1 by 10% or 20%, because like you say, if you have a smaller screen, like imagine something like the old cell phones, like I don't know, but 30 for 50 pixels, I don't know, range, something like that. If you have 1%, like you say, you'll be on side time. It's like it's the same thing. It's like you have dynamic, but in the final goal you have a fixed size. If you go on to a large scale, like you have 20%, they will scale by a fully size of the screen, not only the one fixed point. But primarily, that's give you the opportunity to build one IU for everything device one. But you have to only remember that that's a trick question because of the position of the element. So if you position the element here, or the position element here, is something.
I think his question was slightly different than that. It was about minimum requirements, right? Yeah, I think it won't work in every device. I mean, it will work in a huge screen because you can render all the structures, but if you try to render that in a very small display, maybe it won't work, or the library will return some message like, okay, this device is not supported, because it needs to be consistent.
At least two layouts, like one for big screens,
Yeah.
one for like very small screens.
Yeah, like you have in Android, you have for the smartwatches, you have for tablets and phones and whatever.
It probably has some. I mean, they create the interface, they can have a kind of display for devices with a resolution like 800 per 600, or if you have this watch, for example, it's a small resolution, but you have only icons there. And if you see pictures,
Yeah, you might want to have the DPI, the dots per inch,
how many?
taken into account. I don't know.
Whatever.
This is 320.
That's a
Google it, yeah. For the fat
See,
readers.
for example, if you have CMP in the left side, it's like a smartphone, a dumb phone right now. So if you have, like you say, a smart screen is not, I have an icon here. I don't know if you can see, they have an icon here. But like I say, the size of the screen matters, but because of that, they going to see if you have more. So the main goal, and that all elements will be dynamically sized, but you have to pay attention, like you said, if you have smaller devices, they will be smaller by the proportion of the screen.
This is mostly for like one device type, right? Because we have seen UI built, for example, for tablet and operating system at once, and it didn't end up very well. So this actually makes sense, for example, for laptop with large scale of display. So for example, from 1366 times 70 something to 2.5 thousand and so on. But I wouldn't say that this works on like different device types.
Yeah, let me show you the example of 3D. I don't have plasma. Let me go some. And go back. But this is plasma active. The touch I use for KD. This is the 40 version, not the new version of 5KT. That version is exclusive for touch devices. They have already the responsive case support. But like you say, it's a different new way of input. So all the screen, all the elements that have no, they don't have like the mouse doing KD. They all arrange it for the person can fingers very quickly. The people can go to everything they want by the side of the hand.
Yeah. Certainly the library will check the resolution and we will make the best effort to draw the...
Yeah, I'm just hoping not to end up with another event.
Yeah, but keep in mind that it's not a miracle.
Yeah, it's an improvement, like I say, because now we have to only project 2 different IU for a smaller and half size, a large screens. But you have to do everything the developer of design you need to do. You have to say, be a platform, see the icons be a good size. It's not a miracle, like I said. Miracle. So,
because nowadays they need to write the same application and expect it to run. Or else you're going to have the mobile version of your website, mobile.
Yeah. That's exactly what I meant, just scaling it doesn't work.
Yeah.
so complement your question. The main problem is how you can manage that in one single platform. How you can have a touch device, a mouse device, a smaller device, and one platform. And the developer way, you can have that very easily. Fedora has that. We have, I don't know if you know how Fedora constructs their system. They use a tool called Koji. The Koji renders everyday packages for ARM, Spark, Intel, 64 bits, PC. So a very wide range of processor architectures without any problems. But what is the main problem? Is the delivery. How we can put for, like I have a demonstration, a single image for a notebook, a cell phone, a TV, a smartwatch, like I say. It's not possible. Why is it not possible? Because the type of processor.
Well, actually, there is a multi-architecture DVD. Is the DVD 32-bit
Yeah.
and 64-bit? So
I think
But
nowadays it's not a problem because
the desktop, but it's the
It's
mobile.
compatible.
We have the transition right now. Who's doing the ARM processors or the Intel processors? So we have stock in the middle of them and trying to do the best for the people. The best right now is do separate ways because there are different hardware instructions, different construction to do because it's a new way of do for the packages and stuff. So it's important to remember that a single platform is a miracle for the point of view of delivery, but the point of view of development, you can have very easily a single development for IU for a cell phone, a tablet, a smartwatch, but you have to give a consideration for the hardware you're gonna build. For example, if you wanna build for a cell phone or for a smartwatch, is something very different for build something for a desktop, because they have less processors, less battery, less memory. So all the platform need to be rebuilt for the new hardware. It's not the same thing why you can build for a desktop. You have to different processor, different hardware stuff. You're gonna be the same everything on. Why with the last devices, mobile device, you need to deliver something directly for the device you want.
Viola? Wow.
So, what our users expect from us right now? Right now, they want another miracle, because they want the functionality of Android, the good IU system of Apple, the programs of Windows Phone in Linux world. So they have to go for a desktop or workstation. They want to be all the great stuff of they don't have in a single way. They have respect for us and combination in one platform. For tablets, we don't have a way to achieve that, because, like I say, the primary goals right now is not mobile or the touch devices. The primary goals now is for workstation, like you see in the last talk. But we have a very good improvements, like the new version of GNOME. If you don't install, the new version is 30.12. Have the same start screen like Android. You configure your email, you configure your drive connections, you configure your instant message. The system you go to do like a magic, say, and download everything in the back of the system. You don't have to directly do you don't have to directly go to the system panel and do manually. And they have some reviews on the internet. I don't know if you read a blog called Forex. They tested Fedora 18 on the tablet and the Ubuntu. They say it's very usable, but can improvement. Is a very truly review, because we have many stuff to do, like let's say we don't have social apps, we don't have many of the devices not touch app interaction, like you have Firefox, GNOME, all the GNOME desktop, the last version is touchable, but if you run the Firefox in your tablet in GNOME, they have no pointless, so you have to go remove the pointers of the mouse to click. So you have a great improvement that is, you can change all the desktop manager, but you need the developers change the apps to support touch, to support the new interaction ways. They have to be built for the last couple of times. So we have two ways of use a tablet. The first way is for GNOME devices, and the second is for in KDE Plasma Active. The KDE is rebuilding, because they managed in the last 3 or 4 weeks ago the new release version. So the touch version is not yet ready, but when they be ready, you don't have to worry like they answered before. If you build a app for a pointing device or a touch device, the desktop manager will automatically do the job for you to render it properly. You don't have to build everything separately. Our users, like I say, expect right now the tablet version, but they will want in a few minutes, because the problem is, like I say, the people expect for Linux all the good stuff of the other platforms, and they expect for the same time. So if Android launch a system operation directly for wearable devices, the Linux have to launch in the same week a codeless, a kernel or something for the new kind of range of devices. So it's a very tricky way to do that, because you don't have enough people to do. Like I said, you don't have finished that product, so you don't know.
You mean when you refer people, you mean the end user or general Linux users?
End users, because they expect from size. They want everything they have in the other platforms right now in Linux, but they forget it to the main question, because, like I said, we have a hardware called a netbook. They are already killed by tablets. You don't know if the wearables is just a fancy way of to see your hours, or it will be a platform. You have some developers, you have some community interesting to do stuff. So probably the user will want a media center for the vehicles. Linux is like 10 years promise, something for cars. Like the workstation is a promise for the future, one more time. Because, like I say, it's not only the motivation, the people.
It's not the proposed. In my opinion, people which use Linux as a desktop, they use it not because it's nice or fancy, as you have in the Windows, you have OS. They use because all tools you can use in your daily basic job are present, you know.
Yes, the main problem is the user wants that out of box. So they want to buy a car with the Fedora installation already do it. They want to buy a TV with Fedora on side of the box. So is that the main question? Fedora is not do with partners to launch that TV or that car. Fedora only builds a platform and do the developers or the users build everything they want inside that platform. You want that, but I can say, if you want, you can have that right now. If you want to have a media platform in your vehicle, you can only buy ARM device with a touch screen and install Fedora with Plasma Media Center of KDE. You have everything you want by the side of your touch. So the main question is, the user wants everything they want already out of the box, and the expectation is very high, because they already see an Android system, they already see an iOS system, so they expect something or less equal or better than the other platforms. And we have something possibly, but very unlikely. You don't have to see in the brand future Fedora cell phone, because it's not the primary goal of Fedora build something. Primarily because that is a market very competitive, and it's very important to be out of box.
I would say that the biggest limitation currently is the state of support, the general Linux support and openness of this platform. Because if you really had such smartphone with open drivers and open bootloader,
Yeah.
it would be just a matter of time before someone takes Fedora and either Plasma Active or even writes their own environment for it.
Yeah.
Because there is demand, there is just no environment that's open enough to enable this.
Yes, that is the main question. In the cell phone market, is a kind of heavy way of patents. So we have in Fedora a group for radio, just same cell phones, radio. They have expected for like 10 or 50 years, because the patents, they have to test it only test it, not production. So imagine to build a free system or a free cell phone to the market. You have all the regulations of each country. You have patent different for each country. You have different frequencies. So it's a tough market.
Well, actually, I'm thinking not really about the baseband. There are even laws that tell you you can't make it open, or it must be limited in some regards.
Yeah. The problem nowadays is the hardware.
Yeah, you can even get most of the basebands are basically small computers interfacing with you. But the problem is you don't even have graphic drivers. The bootloader is locked. You need some crazy knowledge baked into the kernel and stuff like this.
Yeah.
That is the problem. You don't have enough freedom to do what you want.
And most chipsets used on cell phones nowadays
They're
use proprietary blobs, so we can ship a kernel like this.
So probably
Or less.
or less. Probably you don't see anything of smart homes directly. Like I said, all the developers are free to do that, but they don't have a special group or something, a spin for your smart home. You can buy your Fedora, your BeagleBone, you can buy something you want and use Fedora, no problem. But don't expect a framework, some API or something like that to do for you. And it's very difficult to Fedora or whatever tool you have. We have be built for wearable devices, because they are very limited resources, and it's a quite heavy, but let me see. It's very difficult, more difficult the cell phone, because they are expected. It's a personal choice, very personal choice. So if you have a wearable device with different IU, the user don't like, you have no product. So it's more difficult to launch a cell phone, but it's tough to launch the user have 24 hours of the day reach the bar. Any more questions?
I have one question, and it's quite related to current memo-list discussion. I will go for it. And that is for example, we were talking about cars. There's, I've seen one car with real UI, and that was Tesla, where the UI was polished and it was kind of Apple-like, actually. And do you think that Fedora is in a state where people really want to put it on there? If you give a normal person an iPhone and next to it the GNOME shell or the KDE Plasma, how do you think we're in that UX state?
Like I say it's very difficult to compare the platforms because only they have developed KD for a car example. They not projected for they be pointless for media center, for a camera or stuff like that. Primarily they don't have see or copy anything of the other platforms. The main idea I can say of the KDE is something they call it activities. Activities is you have many programs, files, everything you want in a small group. When you load the system, then you have your virtual workspace of activities for do your job, to do your homework, to do something you want. So it's a new thinking way of operate that system. Is in testing right now. I don't know if it will be a great for a car or another device because
Yeah, I'm still afraid of the UI part because most of our
It depends on what is this computers will be used for, you know?
Yeah, of course, but I mean, it's the problem that we like, you
To provide a map, for instance, you can use a browser.
Yeah.
An application full screen that you just touch.
And it would be very, very painful for anything more
Yeah.
advanced than like looking at them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
However, if you're talking about the computer helping a car make the driver to make some decision, such as, okay, you are driving in this speed and
yeah, no, we have no problem
text
with the computer.
is not stable, but it's completely different kind of architecture of hardware the car manufacturers use for that.
We can do the computations, we know
Yeah.
the data, but this is the question of how to
You can do this, if you look on the internet, you can do this with a Raspberry Pi
Yeah.
and LCD display, you know. But it's completely pointless because you can find devices with that.
In the display, but actually, it's how you see the like Fedora on these devices. If it's like you take the Fedora image and install it in your car and like gives you everything, or if you see the Fedora as a platform on where some like open source car UI is running. But it's Fedora underneath, so that new packages you can interface this application with Fedora stuff. Albert can like report crashes on the road and stuff.
it'll be funny how tested buy a car from Toyota Freedom. Any more questions?
Yeah.
No. Thank you for your time.
I have one last question.
Okay.
Absolutely.